When people think of iconic phones, they often look at the sales number and commercial success. But in this video, I'm also highlighting phones that became legendary through other means, like viral moments on TikTok or lasting impact on YouTube. Over the past decades, we have seen some truly unforgettable devices, and I actually own a few of them myself. So let's dive in. The LG Wing was launched in September 2020 and marked the final chapter in LG's smartphone journey. RIP LG Mobile. While it didn't make a huge impact at launch, it later gained significant popularity on TikTok thanks to its bold and unique take on multitasking. The main screen of LG swivels in an anti-clockwise direction, revealing a small second screen underneath the main one. It's bold, quirky, and genuinely useful. Sometimes. You can watch videos on the top screen while texting and browsing on the bottom. Even in 2025, that still feels futuristic. It's heavier than any modern flagship, 260 grams, and not the most pocket friendly. But if you're tired of boring glass slabs, this design still turns head. The Wing's camera setup was ambitious: 64 megapixel main sensor, two ultra wides, and a pop up selfie camera. But what really stood out was the gimbal mode, turning the lower screen into a digital stabilizer. Cool idea, but limited to 1080p. And compared to today's 4K phones, it's more of a novelty. Fun to play with, not something I'd rely for serious content. Photos taken on LG Wings are surprisingly good in well lit condition, delivering sharp details and vibrant colors. Even today, LG phones have a devoted following, and the LG Wing stands out as one of the most daring and iconic designs in the smartphone history. In a world of foldables, the Moto Razr 5G stood out, not just for folding but for flipping. This was Motorola's 2020 tribute to the iconic Razr, and in true retro futuristic fashion. It brought back the flip with a touchscreen twist. It featured a 6.2 foldable display inside, a 2.7-inch quick view display outside, and a Snapdragon 765G chip with 5G support. The camera? A 48 megapixel sensor that doubled as your selfie cam. The best part? You can take a selfie without opening the phone. The Razr 5G didn't fly off the shelf. It was pricey, underpowered, and had battery issues. But that didn't stop it from becoming a cult classic. It found a second life on TikTok, with creators loving its flip and go style. It wasn't perfect, but it was memorable. Today's flip phone owe a lot to Razr 5G. It helped to revive the flip factor, reminding the world that phones can be fun again. Without it, we might not have the polished foldables. The Moto Razr 5G wasn't a phone, it was a moment. A bold, nostalgic comeback that dared to be different. And for that, it earned its place in the tech history. Before the Pro Max, before the Dynamic Island, there was this: the iPhone 6s Plus, Apple's truly iconic big phone. Released in 2015, the iPhone 6s Plus was a game changer. It was built upon the massive success of iPhone 6 series, but added two things that made it stand out: a bigger 5.5-inch display, and now the nostalgic Plus experience. The display was huge for its time, and Apple made it sure to pack more than just screen real estate. You got optical image stabilization, better battery life than the regular 6S, and of course 3D touch. 3D touch was futuristic, letting you pick and pop with pressure sensitive taps. It felt like magic, and it's still missed by many today. Sure, the bezels were big, the home button was mechanical, and the headphone jack still alive and well. But there's no denying this phone had character. It ran iOS 9 out of the box, but guess what? The iPhone 6s Plus got updates all the way to iOS 15. That's 7 years of support. Insane longevity for a phone. And who can forget the debut of Rose Gold? For a lot of people, along with me, this was their first big phone, their first big screen YouTube bench device, their first big leap from small to spacious. The iPhone 6s Plus was the OG big phone and it still deserves its flower. In 2012, Google and LG teamed up to create a phone that would redefine what a budget flagship could be. This is the Nexus 4, a phone that was years ahead of its time and still hold a legendary place in Android history. Look at this. The Nexus 4 had a premium glass back with a subtle holographic sparkle. No plastic, no gimmicks, just clean and timeless design. At a time when phones were bulky and bland, the Nexus 4 looked and felt like future. Except for the rubberized coating on the borders, which hasn't aged well over time. It came with a Snapdragon S4 Pro chip, 2 GB of RAM, and a crisp 4.7-inch 720p display. It wasn't the most powerful on paper, but it ran stock Android so smoothly, it felt faster than many flagships. The Nexus 4 had features that felt futuristic: wireless charging, Google Now voice assistance, and ultra minimal UI. It didn't have LTE in most models, a sore spot at the time, but it paved the way for the Pixel line and Android's evolution. People still talk about the Nexus 4 today, not because it was the most fastest or most feature packed, but because it captured the pure version of Android. It was open, clean, developer friendly, and accessible. It marked the golden era of Nexus and reminded us what Android could truly be. In 2013, one phone changed how we look at the smartphone cameras, literally. This is the Nokia Lumia 1020, the phone that sparked a camera revolution. The results, you say? Insane. Zooming in didn't even destroy the detail like it did on other phones. You could crop, reframe, and edit like never before, all from a device in your pocket. In 2025, people still talk about the 1020's camera as one of the greatest ever put in a smartphone. The Lumia 1020 wasn't just about the camera. It ran Windows Phone. Clean, fluid, different. It had the hardware to dominate, but not the software to support the match. The Nokia Lumia 1020 was bold, brilliant, and way ahead of its time. It may not have won the sales race, but it definitely won a place in the smartphone history. In 2011, people waited in line for hours. Some even camped out overnight just to get their hands on this phone. The iPhone 4S wasn't just a product, it was a phenomenon. The iPhone 4S launched on October 14, 2011 and broke every sales record at the time, selling over 4 million units in just first weekend. Apple stores were flooded, online orders crashed website. This was the peak of iPhone mania. It looked almost identical to iPhone 4, but under the hood, the 4S was packed with new features. It introduced the A5 chip, a much better 8 megapixel camera, 1080p video recording, and for the first time ever, Siri, Apple's voice assistant. That little robotic voice changed how we interacted with our phones forever. The iPhone 4S continued the legacy of iPhone 4's stunning design, a glass front and back sandwiched in a stainless steel frame. Even today, it's considered one of the best looking iPhones ever made. The iPhone 4S may not seem like much today, but in 2011, it was the phone everyone wanted. It helped bring smartphone to the mainstream, and for many people, it was their first iPhone ever. It was fast, reliable, beautifully made, and it just worked. The iPhone 4S wasn't just a product, it was the beginning of a new chapter for Apple, for mobile tech, and for millions of users around the world. In the late 2000s, BlackBerry was the king of email, messaging, and business. But one device stood out for doing something unexpected: a flip phone. This is the BlackBerry Pearl Flip 8220, a stylish twist on a business classic. In 2008, BlackBerry launched its first ever flip phone. It still had the signature trackball, Shure type keyboard, and a BBM Magic, but now in a compact clamshell form. It looked like it belonged in both conference room and your back pocket. Under the hood, the Pearl Flip was all about productivity, push email, calendar sync, and BlackBerry Messenger. But it wasn't just for suits. With its glossy finish, external display, and flip to answer call, it added a splash of style to BlackBerry's serious image. Despite its charm, the Pearl Flip came at a time when BlackBerry was starting to fall behind. Touchscreens and app stores were taking over. But this little flip phone, it carved a fan base that still remembers it fondly. The BlackBerry Pearl Flip may not have been the most powerful phone, but it was one of the coolest Blackberries ever made. A perfect blend of form, function, and flip. Before smartphone ruled the world, there was Nokia. And its peak stood these two legends, the Nokia N95 and its sequel, the N96. Feature packed, futuristic, and years ahead of its time. Launched in 2007, the Nokia N95 was a beast. It had a dual slider design, revealing a keypad on one side and a media control on other. It was the smartphone before the word caught on. With a 5 megapixel Carl Zeiss lens, built-in GPS, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and a 3.5 mm headphone jack, the N95 was basically a mini computer in your pocket. Then came the Nokia N96 in 2008, a sleeker, glossier successor with 16 GB internal storage, mobile TV support, dual LED flash, and the same iconic dual slide design. On paper, it was a beast. But while it looked better, many felt the N96 lacked the same impact. It was heavier, slower, and launched in a world already shifting towards touchscreen and app stores. These phones were multimedia monsters. You could watch videos, play games like Engage titles, browse the web, take great photos, and even connect to TV via TV out. Nokia gave the users real tool, not just a hype. The N95 especially is still remembered as one of the most iconic phones ever made. It pushed the boundaries of what phones could do. The N96, while less beloved, still symbolizes Nokia's last big push before the smartphone era truly began. The Nokia N95 and N96 weren't just phones, they were milestones. A reminder of when Nokia ruled the mobile world with innovation, design, and ambition. If you owned one of these, you were living in the future. Sadly, my beloved N95 has reached the end of its journey. These phones weren't just devices, they were milestones. They shaped how we communicate, capture memories, and connect with the world. We held them in our hands, but they held the entire eras of tech history. Icons fade, screen crack, battery dies, but the legend like these live forever. Which one did you have? Let us know in the comments.